My name is Lily. I was 32 years old when I learned something painful. In my family, even my seat came with conditions. It happened at my parents' 35th wedding anniversary party. The party was beautiful. Gold chairs stood around large tables covered with white cloth. Fresh flowers decorated every corner. Soft music floated through the warm summer air. Everything looked perfect. I should know. I was the one who planned it. I booked the venue. I hired the caterer. I arranged the flowers. I chose the music. I handled the guest list. I organized transportation for my grandmother. I spent months making sure every detail was perfect. But when I arrived, carrying a silver-wrapped gift under my arm, my father smiled and pointed toward the garage. "Your seat is in there," he said. I thought he was joking. He wasn't. Every cousin had a chair at the main tables. Every aunt and uncle had a chair. Even Cody, my cousin who once stole from my grandmother, had a gold chair at the main celebration. I was the only one being sent somewhere else. The garage smelled like oil and old concrete. And that was where my family expected me to sit. What none of them knew was that the gift under my arm was worth more than every decoration at that party. And what happened after that would change everything. Before I tell you about the garage, you need to understand something about me. I work as a forensic accountant. My job is finding problems hidden inside numbers. I can spend hours looking through bank statements and financial records until I find the one thing everyone else missed. I built that career myself. No one paid for my college. No one helped me financially. I worked part-time jobs, attended community college classes at night, and studied whenever I could. Everything I achieved came from my own effort. That mattered because in my family, I was never the person people worried about. I was the person who worried about everyone else. If Grandma Ruth needed medicine, I handled it. If someone forgot a birthday, I remembered it. If bills needed paying, appointments needed scheduling, or holidays needed organizing, I took care of it. Nobody asked me to do those things. They simply expected me to. And after enough years, I expected it too. When I was 19, I started helping. When I was 24, I was helping more. By 34, I was basically running the entire family behind the scenes. One day years ago, my mother looked at a pile of unpaid bills and said, "You're good at this kind of thing." That was it. No thank you. No appreciation. Just a statement. From that day forward, I became the family's unpaid manager. And somehow I convinced myself that being needed meant being loved. Looking back now, I understand how wrong I was. When my parents announced their anniversary party, everyone automatically assumed I would organize it. My mother called me months before the event. "I want something elegant," she said. "Of course. Gold chairs. Okay. Real table linens. Got it. Make sure the photographer gets pictures of the porch. I'll handle it." The conversation lasted less than 10 minutes. Not once did she ask if I had time. Not once did she ask if I wanted to do it. She simply assumed. And I said yes. Because I always did. I created spreadsheets. I compared venue prices. I negotiated with vendors. I coordinated decorations. I handled seating charts. I spent 11 evenings planning every detail. At the same time, I worked on something special. A gift. For 2 years I had been quietly putting it together. My parents only had one photograph from their wedding day. One. It was old, faded, and cracked down the middle. The picture had been taped inside a kitchen cabinet for decades. I remembered staring at it as a child. So I secretly took it to professionals. They restored every damaged piece. Every faded color. Every crack. When they finished, the photo looked beautiful again. Like time had moved backward. I placed it in a handmade walnut frame. But that wasn't all. There was something else in the silver package. Something much bigger. Something connected to our family cabin. The cabin sat beside a lake 90 minutes from town. It had belonged to my grandfather Harold. Some of my happiest childhood memories happened there. Summer holidays. Christmas mornings. Thanksgiving dinners. The cabin was family history. After Grandpa died, ownership passed to my father. But there was a problem. My father stopped paying the property taxes. Not because he couldn't. Because he didn't. Important paperwork bored him. One day I found a tax notice buried in the recycling bin. The cabin was in danger. Nobody knew. Nobody cared. Except me. Without telling anyone, I called the county office. I arranged a payment plan. Over 4 years, I paid every dollar. More than $11,000. My own money. I saved every receipt. I kept records of every payment. I sent documentation to my parents. They never responded. The cabin survived because I saved it. Nobody ever thanked me. Still, I believed one day it would matter. That anniversary gift contained proof that the cabin was finally clear of debt. Paid in full. Safe. Protected. It was the most meaningful gift I had ever given anyone. The night before the party, I finished wrapping it. Silver paper. Linen ribbon. Simple and elegant. I held it in my hands and imagined my parents opening it. I imagined my father smiling. Not his usual smile. A real one. The kind that said he was proud of me. Maybe this gift would finally make him see me. Maybe after all these years, I would feel like more than the family assistant. Maybe I would finally feel like a daughter. Hope can be a dangerous thing. Especially when you've spent years earning it from people who never planned to give it. The day of the party arrived. The venue looked exactly as I imagined. Beautiful. Perfect. Guests were already arriving. The string quartet was setting up. Flowers decorated the entrance. Everything was running smoothly. I felt proud. Then I walked over to check the seating chart. At first I thought there had been a mistake. I searched for my name. Nothing. I checked again. Still nothing. I looked at every table. Every list. Every assigned seat. My name wasn't there. The seating chart I personally created didn't include me. A strange feeling settled into my stomach. Maybe they moved my seat. Maybe there was another chart. Maybe. Lily. I turned. My father was smiling. The same smile he used when talking to service workers. Come with me. I followed him. He led me away from the garden. Away from the tables. Away from the celebration. Toward the garage. Inside stood a single white folding chair. Nothing else. No table. No place setting. No name card. Just one plastic chair beside traffic cones and old equipment. The fluorescent light buzzed overhead. It's just for extended family, my father said casually. Then he walked away. That was it. No apology. No explanation. Nothing. I stood there frozen. My brain struggled to process what had happened. Extended family? I was his daughter. I planned the entire event. I paid for parts of it myself. I carried the anniversary gift under my arm. And somehow I wasn't important enough for a real seat. Slowly, I sat down. The chair pinched my leg. Outside, music began playing. Guests laughed. Glasses clinked. The celebration started. And I sat in a garage. From where I was sitting, I could see part of the garden through the open doorway. I saw Grandma Ruth. I saw Brett. I saw my aunts and uncles. And I saw Cody. Cody sat comfortably in a gold chair. The same Cody who stole Grandma Ruth's garnet earrings while she was in the hospital. The same Cody who never apologized. The same Cody everyone forgave. He had a seat at the family table. I didn't. That realization hurt more than anything. For 11 minutes I sat there. I counted. 11 minutes. Do you know how many people came looking for me? 0. Not one. Nobody asked where I was. Nobody checked if I was okay. Nobody noticed. And suddenly everything became clear. Not painful. Not dramatic. Clear. I started doing math. Not accounting math. Life math. 15 years of helping. 4 years of tax payments. Hundreds of appointments. Thousands of reminders. Countless family emergencies. And it all led here. A folding chair in a garage. The answer was obvious. I had spent years confusing usefulness with love. I wasn't valued. I was useful. There was a difference. A huge difference. The moment I understood that, something inside me changed. The hurt didn't disappear. But it transformed. It became clarity. I looked down at the silver gift resting on my lap. The restored photograph. The cabin documents. Years of effort. Years of love. Years of hope. And suddenly I realized something. They expected me to stay. They expected me to sit quietly in that garage. They expected me to smile afterward. They expected me to help clean up. Because that's what Lily always did. Because Lily always understood. Not this time. I stood up. The chair scraped loudly across the concrete floor. The sound echoed through the garage. For some reason, it felt important. Like the ending of something. I picked up the silver gift. Then I walked back toward the garden. I didn't run. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I simply walked. People noticed me as I crossed the lawn. My mother looked up first. Then Brett. Then my father. I walked past every table. Past every guest. Past every decoration I had planned. Past every detail I had spent months creating. Straight toward the exit. Behind me I heard my mother's chair move. Lily. I kept walking. Lily, wait. Still walking. Don't do this in front of everyone. That made me stop. I turned around. My mother stood a few steps away. Her face was tight. Worried. Not worried about me. Worried about appearances. Then she used the sentence she had been using my entire life. You always understand, Lily. For years, those words had controlled me. For years, they worked. But not anymore. I held up the silver package. Looked directly at her. And said 2 words. Extend this. Then I turned around and walked away. I didn't know it yet. But that was the moment everything changed. That night, after the party, I sat alone on my couch. My phone kept buzzing. Messages. Notifications. Family conversations. I ignored them at first. Then curiosity won. And when I finally opened the family group chat, I found something that would hurt even more than the garage itself. A conversation. A conversation they thought I would never see. And the moment I started reading it, I realized the garage hadn't been an accident at all. I stared at my phone and opened the family group chat. At first, everything looked normal. Pictures from the party. Comments about the food. People saying they had a great time. Then I noticed an older thread buried underneath. My stomach tightened. I opened it. The first message came from my mother. Seating update. Lily can sit in the side area. She won't mind. A reply from my father appeared below it. Put her in the garage. More room for the Hendersons. I froze. My eyes moved to the next message. Brett had replied with a laughing emoji. Then 3 words. She'll understand, LOL. The room suddenly felt very quiet. I kept reading. There were messages about whether they should tell me beforehand. No, my mother wrote. She'll make it weird. Another message said I would be too busy helping to notice. 9 messages. 9 separate messages discussing where to hide me during the party I planned. Not one person objected. Not one person defended me. Not one person said it was wrong. I read the thread twice. Then I set my phone down. For years I had been asking myself the same question. Did they really care about me? That night I finally got an answer. The answer was no. The next morning I made coffee and sat at my desk. Then I opened a spreadsheet. Old habits. Across the top I wrote 4 columns. Task. Frequency. Replacement. Status. Then I started listing everything I did for the foster family. Grandma Ruth's appointments. Insurance calls. Prescription refills. Birthday reminders. Holiday planning. Travel arrangements. The family calendar. Vendor management. Household paperwork. Car registrations. Maintenance scheduling. The lake cabin. Tax records. Emergency contacts. 41 separate recurring responsibilities. 41. I stared at the list. The family thought I was dramatic. The truth was much simpler. I was exhausted. And for the first time in 15 years, I decided to stop. No speeches. No angry social media posts. No long emails. I was simply done. Monday morning I left the family group chat. I removed myself as administrator. I deleted every recurring reminder. Then I went to work. By Tuesday afternoon, confusion had already started. Nobody knew Grandma Ruth's appointment time. Nobody knew which entrance her doctor required. Nobody knew where her paperwork was stored. Questions filled the chat. Nobody had answers. For years they assumed these things magically handled themselves. Now they were learning otherwise. Wednesday, I called Grandma Ruth directly. I explained everything. The garage. The messages. My decision to step back. I expected disappointment. Instead, she sighed softly. I wondered when you'd figure it out. I blinked. What? I've been waiting years for you to stop carrying everyone. Tears filled my eyes. She understood immediately. More than anyone else. Over the next week, I transferred every responsibility. The venue. The photographer. The caterer. The florist. Every vendor received the same message. I am no longer the contact person. Several of them sounded surprised. One caterer laughed gently. I thought you were the one running everything. I was. That was the problem. Then the cracks started showing. My mother called a medical office. She didn't know the account information. My father couldn't find important paperwork. Brett forgot appointments. The family calendar stopped updating. A plumber arrived at my parents' house. My father had no idea why. The Thanksgiving order became confused. Birthdays were forgotten. Schedules collapsed. Nobody noticed my work when I was doing it. But everyone noticed when it stopped. 3 weeks passed. Not a single apology came. Instead, I received requests. Demands. Complaints. One evening my mother called. The caterer says we owe another $200. I listened quietly. Then I said, the invoice is in your email. Silence. What? I'm not handling it anymore. Her voice sharpened. What does that even mean? It means you're responsible for your own event. She hung up. My father called 2 days later. He sounded angry. The house is falling apart. I didn't answer. The calendar is gone. Still silent. Your mother is stressed. Finally I spoke. I'm not doing it anymore. After a long pause he said something that surprised even him. After everything we've done for you. Then he stopped. Because he couldn't finish the sentence. There was nothing to finish. No examples. No sacrifices. No evidence. The sentence died halfway through. Brett sent a text. This is getting kind of dramatic. I stared at it. Then deleted my reply. Some people only notice your value when they lose access to it. A few weeks later I visited Grandma Ruth. She sat beside her window, working on a crossword puzzle. As always, her face brightened when she saw me. I told her everything. She listened carefully. Then she surprised me. Your mother used to be like you. I looked up. What do you mean? When she married your father, she handled everything. I blinked. Holidays. Cards. Planning. Family problems. Grandma Ruth smiled sadly. People called her the secretary. What happened? She hated it. The answer hit me immediately. My mother had escaped that role. Then she handed it to me. Not because she was evil. Because it was easier. That realization didn't excuse what happened. But it helped me understand it. Before I left, Grandma Ruth squeezed my hand. Harold would have wanted you to have that cabin. Her words stayed with me. Then September arrived. And with it came a new problem. The cabin. One morning my father called. Furious. The county says we owe $4,000. I already knew. The county planned infrastructure upgrades near the lake. I had tracked the assessment for 2 years. The deadline was approaching. You have 6 weeks, I said. Why didn't you tell us? It was on the calendar. What calendar? The one nobody checked. Silence. Then came the familiar expectation. You need to handle this. I closed my eyes. For 34 years I would have said yes. Not anymore. No. The word felt strange. Heavy. Powerful. No. He exploded. But I didn't change my answer. The cabin belonged to him. The responsibility belonged to him. For once, I wasn't rescuing anyone. That evening I sat at my kitchen table. My hands trembled. Not from fear. From freedom. I wasn't carrying everyone anymore. And my arms didn't know how to feel empty. A month later, something unexpected happened. My friend Margot invited me over. Margot was a family therapist. After hearing my story, she leaned back thoughtfully. There are thousands of women like you. The sentence stayed with me. Thousands. Women carrying entire families. Women doing invisible work. Women earning love through service. What if we started a group? I asked. Margot smiled. I've been hoping you'd ask. The first meeting happened in a small coffee shop. 7 women attended. Each had a story. Each carried invisible responsibilities. Each looked exhausted. One woman named Karen spoke first. She looked around nervously. Then she asked a simple question. You mean I'm allowed to just sit down? The room became silent. Then someone laughed. Someone cried. And suddenly we all understood each other. For the first time in years, I didn't feel alone. The group became known as the backup chair. Because every one of us knew what it felt like to be hidden while everyone else received credit. Months passed. The group grew. Meanwhile, my family continued struggling. My mother wrote a letter. A long handwritten letter. She talked about stress. About Never apologized. Never acknowledged the group chat. The entire letter had one message. Come back and fix everything. I didn't. Then my father showed up at my office. He stood in the reception area and demanded answers. I walked him outside. What exactly did you do for me? I asked. He opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Because the truth was painful. He couldn't answer. Thanksgiving arrived. The family calendar was a disaster. Schedules overlapped. Orders were missed. People forgot responsibilities. Brett tried managing everything. He lasted 9 days. 9. Then he texted the family. Can somebody else do this? I'm drowning. I laughed when I read it. Not because it was funny. Because I had been doing it for 15 years. Then came Grandma Ruth's 89th birthday. My mother planned a restaurant dinner. Grandma Ruth actually wanted the lake cabin. But that wasn't possible anymore. The assessment remained unpaid. 3 days before the dinner, my mother called. Your grandmother wants you there. For Ruth, I agreed. But I wasn't showing up empty-handed. I spent 2 days preparing. I created a folder. Inside were records. Receipts. Timelines. Proof. 15 years of invisible labor. The restaurant was beautiful. Everyone attended. My parents. Brett. Aunts. Uncles. Even Cody. I sat beside Grandma Ruth. But before taking my seat, I carried something inside. A white folding chair. The exact kind from the garage. I leaned it against the wall. Everyone noticed. Nobody spoke. Dinner continued. Conversation flowed. Then 23 minutes later, exactly as expected, my father brought up the cabin. We need to discuss the taxes. The table became quiet. He explained the penalties. The overdue payments. The problems. Then he looked at me. Waiting. Expecting. Assuming. I opened my bag. And placed the folder on the table. Every eye turned toward me. This, I said calmly, is 15 years. I opened the folder. Page after page. Appointments. Bills. Schedules. Holidays. Tasks. Responsibilities. Everything. Then I showed them the cabin records. The tax payments. The receipts. The certified letters. The proof. Silence filled the room. Finally I pulled out the silver package. The same package from the anniversary party. Still unopened. Still wrapped. I carefully untied the ribbon. Then I revealed the restored wedding photograph. The room gasped. My parents stared at the image. Young. Happy. Holding hands. Then I revealed the tax documents underneath. Proof that the cabin had been saved. Paid for. Protected. By me. I looked directly at my father. This was your anniversary gift. Nobody spoke. You put me in a garage before I could give it to you. My father's face changed. Shock. Calculation. Anger. You are twisting things, he snapped. No. You always help. There was one chair, Dad. His face turned red. You take everything personally. I finally stood. For years I had remained quiet. Not anymore. You didn't build this family. The room froze. I did. No one argued. Because they knew it was true. My mother started crying. The same tears she always used when losing control. You always understand. I shook my head. No. I finally understand. The words hit harder than shouting. For the first time, her usual phrase had no power. The room changed. People started speaking honestly. Questions surfaced. Old frustrations emerged. Even Cody faced questions about the stolen earrings. The silence protecting him disappeared. The silence protecting everyone disappeared. At the end, I placed the photograph in front of Grandma Ruth. "This was always for you." Tears filled her eyes. She touched the frame gently. Then she looked at me. "Harold would have put you at the head of the table." That was the moment I finally felt seen. Not for my work. Not for my usefulness. For me. I stood. "I'm not disappearing," I said. "I'm just going home to my own table." Then I looked at my mother. "If you want a relationship with me, it starts with my name on a real chair." Nobody answered. Because there was nothing left to say. I pushed Grandma Ruth's wheelchair toward the door. The night air felt cold and clean. For the first time in years, I felt light. The months that followed were revealing. My parents hired professionals to handle responsibilities I used to manage for free. The cabin penalties increased. Bills piled up. Schedules remained messy. Life became expensive once invisible labor disappeared. Meanwhile, the backup chair continued growing. More women joined every month. Stories were shared. Healing began. I focused on my career. Made new friends. Built a life that didn't revolve around fixing everyone else's problems. I even started dating. One evening, a man named Owen made dinner reservations himself. I almost cried. Not because it was romantic. Because nobody had expected me to organize it. Grandma Ruth visited often. We shared Sunday dinners. Cornbread became our tradition. One afternoon we sat together at my dining table. The restored wedding photograph hung on my wall. Grandma Ruth insisted it stay there. "Your parents can have it when they earn it." I smiled every time she said it. Then one day I realized something important. For years I thought love meant sacrifice. I thought being needed meant belonging. I thought earning a seat required constant work. I was wrong. Real love doesn't make you prove your worth every day. Real love doesn't hide you in garages. Real love doesn't hand you endless responsibilities and call it affection. Real love saves you a seat before you arrive. And when I finally stopped paying for my place at someone else's table, I found something better. My own. A table built with respect. A table built with honesty. A table where my name mattered. Not because of what I did. Because of who I was. For 15 years I was the family's backup chair. The person holding everything together. The person nobody noticed. Then one day I stood up. And everything changed. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is stop carrying people who never noticed the weight. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is finally sit down in a chair that belongs to you. This completes the story. Thanks for watching. Stay connected.